Greetings, and thank you especially to those who have stuck with me through the entirety of Egypt Old Kingdom. This is going to be the finale, an action-packed and decidedly challenging finale. And we have one item that I think we can do, which is to upgrade our regions, sacrifice some food, and get everything that we can in. But aside from that, it's time to face our punishment. Well, we have a failed expedition. That's always nice. Great drought. So we have wildlife both running and flying away, trying to escape. We have Seth shrouded in shadow. We have the sands of time, or perhaps just a sandstorm coming in. The climate is now very cold and arid. All the lands beyond the Nile Valley are turning into desert. Seth's rage is unstoppable. Western lands, and now completely lifeless. I think that's supposed to be R. Around the world, civilizations fall into crisis. Droughts bring starvation, wars, and socio-political chaos. Minus 20% food every turn, and the population of Egypt declines. So, we're going to want to invoke Bastet here to reduce the effect of whatever negatives come our way. And that'll drop our food loss from 20% down to 4%, which is going to be a lot more manageable. That's about it for now. And here comes the real problem. A new trial, the first intermediate period has started. The coming chaos. And I like the graphic here. We've got the gods of ancient Old Kingdom Egypt trying to fight off the darkness and the sand and the various animalistic representations of the demonic forces of chaos. A long and harsh drought caused the situation to deteriorate rapidly. Powers of chaos decided to seize the moment and destroy the world. Oh, is that all? Egypt now enters a time of utmost misery, and the action of Horus will decide whether the world will continue to exist or come to an end. So this is obviously an exaggeration, but it is a major crisis that did bring down the Old Kingdom, or accelerated its decline at the very least. So it's definitely worthy of our attention here at the end of the run. Powers of chaos are growing stronger and are striving to destroy the world. The fate of humanity is at stake. You have to prevent chaos strength from reaching 100% or the game would be lost. What shall we do? So this is not merely a minor penalty that we're going to have to endure. It's a win-lose condition, and everything that we've achieved so far can be upended if we're not successful here. Shrewd prioritizing is necessary during these times of negative events and limited resources. Minimize expenses. I'm not going to take this route of shutting down buildings and cults. I don't think it's worth it. Keep chaos strength and minimum to a minimum. At a minimum, something like that. Do it to decrease the number of negative events and remain in control. And also, if we just keep it under 100%, that's a bronze success. Silver success means keeping it under 75. And gold means keeping it under 50. So that's an additional motivation for us. In case of resource shortage, try to solve the most pressing problems. Use the advantages of your patron god. So our historical background. At the end of the Old Kingdom, apparently one the was not sufficient, Egypt and nearby civilizations were struck by the greatest drought ever experienced. That drought led to the downfall of the ancient kingdoms and to great adversities. The kings of Egypt tried as hard as they could, yet failed to preserve ancient Egypt. You have to at least match their achievements and keep Egypt from breaking apart too early. This whole period historically is named rather silly in my opinion. It's simply called the 4.2 Ka event. Ka standing for kilo years or thousands of years ago. And it was a great drought over much of the world. There are also parts of the world where it had no effect, or at least a very limited or ambiguous one. There are parts of the world where it was much wetter and caused a lot of flooding. So it would be more accurate to call this simply a big climate disruption. And it had complex effects, but also complex timing. In parts of the world, it seemed to be lasting about 100 years, in others 200 years or longer. But it was not just a passing shadow. This was definitely a huge threat from the natural world to the various civilizations of the ancient era. So, perform a miracle. Summon the essence of Autumn, and instant victory if we get the 2000 favor. And this is what we discussed before. It's the Horus Ex Machina. And I don't like the fact that this is here, because I think historically we should have to deal with at least something in the first intermediate period. Just being able to literally throw money, or in this case favor, at it, I don't like that. But at the same time, it's, blatant hand wavium, but it is honest blatant hand wavium. they're not pretending that it's reasonable, so I will take that to be what it's worth. Shutting down buildings or cults, we're going to gain chaos strength, which is difficult enough to reduce that I don't think these are worth doing it, but we could sacrifice, or rather get a reduction in ancestral duty or a reduction in upkeep for that. Then we have the reform and placate options. We can sacrifice luxuries or favor in order to reduce the chaos strength. The key one for us is going to be praying to Ptah, because we get the tomb efficiency bonus and a good reduction in chaos strength for sacrificing our production. A lot of it, but still. So we are going to hammer this as much as we can. Notice that as we do so, the negative event chance drops with the chaos strength dropping. And 30% is as low as it's going to get. So a key task for us every turn from now to the end is going to be to make sure we've got that chaos strength down as low as we possibly can. So the blessing of Ptah is now gone. And we are going to hit Osiris. And then Ptah. And boost ourselves up as much as we can. We're also going to upgrade regions one more time. Taking our food down to almost nothing, but again, gaining everything that we can. That extra 1% taxes may matter in the long run. What there is of the long run remaining. Okay, we lost a worker. Senile King, Pepi II, has been living for almost 90 years already. All his efforts to free Egypt from misery were for naught. Too old, life is leaving his body. Almost all of his children are already in the land of the dead. What will happen to the world? Who will protect it now? And we have our 10 favor lost, and again, chaos strength going up. But this is really interesting to me as a curiosity that we'll never know, but I wonder about it. Say you had the chance to be a fly on a wall or perhaps a minor advisor in the late stages of Pepi's life, maybe the last 5 years or so. I'd be interested in how far past it was he really? How aware was he of what was going on, or was he simply so old and senile that it was beyond his capability to control anything? Did he really care about what was going on, or was he more aloof? And then, of course, was he seeing enough into the future? Was he prescient enough to realize that things were really going to fall apart after he was gone? So just exactly what his awareness and involvement were is something that, if I had the opportunity to discover it, would be something that I find is very interesting. So loss of respect. All regions we control are in unrest. People respect royal power no more, while Egyptians, Nubians, and Asians alike clamor for secession. The gods themselves guide them away from Horus. And of course, the central power of the pharaoh is no longer what it was, so we can't control them. And also, they're probably not getting the benefits they may have once enjoyed of being part of the Egyptian state. So all regions will break away in the next few turns. And we had a worker that we lost, so let's deal with that. We also have enough accumulated. We're going to go up, and it's a big price there, 10,400, but we're going to hit sophistication of cults again. We are really going to need favor down the stretch, and so we're doing everything that we can to acquire more of it. Armenia will stay there. We're never going to be able to reach Persia, but we can continue gathering those resources as long as possible. And then we have various other notifications. Seth, are you still around? We still have one left. Okay. Adversities in China, and this gives us some balance on our climate disruption. Far to the east, in the valleys of the Yangtze and the Yellow River, floods have destroyed settlements and turned fertile lands into swamps, while frost has almost killed all crops. Many regions were depopulated, culture and crafts forgotten. Some say that a star has fallen from the skies near the Yangtze Delta, killed a lot of people, and left a large lake in the impact spot. Now, to the best of my knowledge, there isn't a lot of favor anymore for that idea of a comet having hit. Evidence seems to be either ambiguous or slightly on the negative side, but the flooding very much was a thing, and could have changed the course of the rise of the ancient Chinese dynasties significantly. One of the more peaceful and advanced and larger Neolithic cultures, at least, really bore the brunt of the flooding and was roughly at its peak, and then essentially really fell into a severe decline as a result. So even well beyond Egypt, this is having a major impact on the development of ancient cultures. And I think that is everything that we're going to need for the time being. Except, I don't want to forget. Almost forgot to reduce my chaos strength. Let's hit Ptah again. And again. And now we're out of the possibility of doing that, so we'll just do one for our Reform and Placate. And hey, we've got it down to ruffle minimum, and we'll try to keep it there. Tax problems. Nomarchs are declining to send taxes to the capital. You can see we're just getting hit by something every turn here. Concealing part of them under various pretexts. Refusing to fund the ancient cults. They are doubting the power of the king and his ancestors. We lose some food and production, all not that much. And chaos strength increases again. Oh, we're going to lose Nubia too. They've started an uprising and have expelled our garrisons. We were too disorganized to put up a decent resistance. And a reminder that we only have 10 turns left, so hold out a little longer. Don't let the chaos engulf Egypt. We're doing the best we can. So, favor of Seeker. We are going to hit Osiris again. And then hit Seeker. And we have a bunch of people here, workers, because the Nubian area is lost. We could try to go out and invade and try to capture some of these. I don't think that's worth really trying to do because it's not going to bring enough in and things are just going to continue getting worse. So I'm going to try to just take the approach of making the best of what we have. So there is a region here that we can get a little bit of luxuries from. And we can sound out our Pearl Fishermen. And get some more there. And then I'll throw one of you up here to try to get this production. Pretty much, I don't think there's anywhere else that I can get something that's more valuable. I mean, I don't really care about the military at this point. So we're going to dive into Memphis. And we're going to utilize all the grain fields that we had been building up in the recent decades. So just deploy. Everywhere that we can. And let's see. Is there anywhere I have missed? There's one up there. So I think that's about as good as we can do for the time being. Hoppy is about to expire, but our other three are pretty much set. And we are at 20% chaos strength. I'm going to hit Reform 3 more times. And Placate 3 more times. So it's really starting to cost us a significant amount, but we're still able to keep things down for now. Distant relatives. Pepi II has died after living for more than 100 years, 90 of which he was king. Not only most of his children, but even most of his grandchildren have died with him. Succession dispute has commenced, with different people now vying to be pretenders to the throne. So things are going from bad to worse. We have even more internal issues. If ancient Egypt historian Manetho was right, and as mentioned before, we don't think he was. Probably Pepi did not live quite this long, but ruled for 94 years, then his rule can rightfully be called the longest in history. Kings received many wishes to live to 100 years. Pepi's longevity didn't bring any happiness to Egypt, though. His old age was a symbol of the outdated order, and his death one of the reasons for the fall of the Old Kingdom, which I think would definitely have happened anyway. But if we had not had this succession issue, then I think it's not as bad. And probably they could have perhaps lasted a bit longer. Now, the wheat people are going to attack. We don't care. I mean, we have other problems. 7th and 8th dynasties coming to power now. Kings changed far too often. Affairs became gradually worse until chaos finally engulfed the country. Despite this, kings tried to copy their ancestors. Even calling them the 7th and 8th dynasties might be a bit of a stretch, because there's a lot of debate about how much control they actually had at this time. How much of Egypt, how much of the outlying regions, but, I mean, Memphis and not much beyond that was definitely the case during at least part of it. We got plus to our culture, and we also have a bonus to our small tombs. And the Tomb of Ibi is our next task to build. They still want us to be building pyramids. We will get some chaos strength and favor bonus from that, though. So, okay. I can deal with that. And we don't have a choice on what to build here. It's not very expensive, but it's going to take 5 turns. I think all of that is just reflecting the fact that this is not going to be a pyramid of the same scope that we have already seen previously. So, Blessing of Hoppy. And civilization leaves the Indus Valley. Monsoons bringing heavy rains to the Indian subcontinent have shifted to the southeast. Inundations of the Indus River have become unstable. People do not know what the river will bring next year, drought or flood. Rising groundwater levels threaten to erode building foundations. Citizens of the Great Mohenjo-Daro fear that soon they will have to leave their city forever. Now, this is premature. And I think they're just trying to show the impact here is why they put it at this point. But the Indus River Valley civilization doesn't actually collapse until about 1900 BC, almost 300 years from now. There was a large earthquake around this time. It's possible that the river shifted at this point. They did have drought effects there, significant ones, much like they were in Egypt. So they are having a lot of problems, but it's actually some centuries later that we see them actually leaving. And I think all of this is set. We do still have Seth, do we not? We do. We're back up to 20%. We've got to do the same thing. I can't really afford this because of what we're going to be doing with building that tomb. Onward, let's see what wonderful mess we are going to get ourselves into next. Asia and Libya have been lost. Libyan and Asian subjects have declared independence, making use of Egypt's weaknesses. They consider us guilty for causing the drought and are planning revenge. That's great. Asian and Libyan lands lost, and everybody is not having a smiling, happy time there, as we can see. Wheat People attack has been canceled because they were attacking an area that we don't even control anymore. Now we have an overpopulation situation, and I would like to say what I'm about to do is simply freeing up my people to go on their own because we can no longer support them. But in the sense of the game mechanics, what we're actually talking about here is, well, killing off a sizable portion of our population. There's no other way to put it. We're going to disband them so that we can get down to our limit. And that's going to give us enough food to boost our regions again. So as guilty as we may feel about that, it's not that we had a great deal of option. We would have to simply put up with all of the fact that we don't have enough to support them, constant penalties from here on out. So again, we look around and what can we do with these people? I mean, we can't even go into these areas anymore. A lot of our resources are drying up, which is why I didn't go further with the Ptah investment. So really the only thing useful I think I can do is just string you out along the river. Of course, I can't take down the housing and do anything different with them because then we'd lower our housing limit. And we're already at it, even with our sacrifices. We're only at 10% here, though. So that's beneficial. I'm going to placate once and reform twice. Okay. Crime is on the rise. Egyptians, deprived of bare necessities, are amassing into criminal gangs. They rob and kill to survive. They are not even afraid of curses and are willing to rob the tombs of the great ancestors. So on we go. We have a robbery chance of plus 30% and more chaos strength. Treachery of Seth. Upper Egypt has been lost. Nomarchs and high priests are assuming full power over their regions. Some of them still nominally accept the Horus of Memphis as the king, but we have no real power there anymore. And another attack. Yeah. Super great. Okay, so couple expeditions. Bastet, and we have lots and lots of favor, but it doesn't do any good. We can't boost what Bastet would give us. But I think Seth is down. Yep. So now we don't quite actually have so much favor anymore, and we have overpopulation. We really have no choice but to eliminate these. Okay, so now we have a positive food flow. We're definitely losing across the board there. We still have 3 turns here. We've got to manage to keep enough resources to finish that tomb. Relations improved to neutral. And we could do some trading in here, now that this area of Upper Egypt is not going to be hostile towards us. So I do want to pull a couple of these out. And all the trading bonuses that we have garnered but not really used for quite some time, well, they are going to be very useful to us now. And let's see, where is our chaos strength at? Yep, it's at 19%. Okay, so I'm going to do you twice. That might be too much, but hopefully I can get away with it. 4 here. Yeah, 330, and we're losing more each turn. And then you're down to 175. And it's really starting to get interesting to balance our resources. We have 7 turns left. Gotta remember where those people are. Suffering of the people. And you're going to lose 3 workers at this time no matter what you do. People are in despair and consider themselves doomed. Some of them still pray to the gods in the hope of their mercy. Others accepted their fate, are refusing to eat or drink, awaiting death. The entire old order has collapsed. There is no reason to live anymore. Talk about a picture of despair. Okay. So, let's get some people back. Trade here. We're definitely going to want this and this. I mean, these are key resource areas. And, you know, there's really no point in me really going after this expedition, I don't think, because there's probably not enough time left to actually get one in. So I'm going to just skip that over. Interaction taboo ended. The blessing of Ptah has ended. Before I decide what else to do, well, we have plenty of food. Do I really need another worker, though? I don't think I do. Because it was just one of our fishermen, and I don't really particularly care about them for now. Unless they grabbed somewhere else. I think it was one of our fishermen. In any case, end of the Akkadian Empire. The empire created by Sargon is crumbling. Of course, Sargon himself no longer around. There are hardly any rains and rivers run dry. Animals die of hunger and thirst. People go south, closer to the deltas. Nomadic barbarians fight farmers for water sources. They've defeated the Akkadian army and taken the capital, and the kingdom has fallen. So there's a lot of debate about that, just as there is about Egypt, in terms of how much of that fall was political and how much of it was produced by the drought. But it is worth noting that if you look at the research in terms of the period that they had dryness, it really brackets exactly when the Akkadian Empire fell. But again, political issues are probably part of it as well, and there doesn't need to be a single cause. Most likely both of those things contributed in some form or another. But where the emphasis is, well, that could be debated pretty much without end. So we've got Seeker, we've got Happy, we've got Bestet, and I think if we do need Ptah, we're going to hold there for now. 19%. Where are we at in our luxuries? I'm only going to go once. That's a lot of favor. We're down to 72, but we're still holding. Okay, we have a battle here, but we have plenty to defeat them. So we're not going to gamble. Oh, good, they're ambushing us. Because we haven't had enough bad news. Whoops, we don't want to do that. Haven't had enough bad news, so we need some more, right? Release them. We'll take whatever goodwill we can get. Oh, we have some blooming lands, and then we also have some areas that are pillaged. Middle Egypt has been lost. The importance of it grows due to its massive water supplies. Local nomarchs consider this a divine blessing and declare themselves to be rightful Horuses. In other words, the kings of Memphis can basically just go away. Donkey people attacking. At least there isn't many of them. So this is an area that, and we can't really do anything about it. They are just recovering from the pillaging. Improve to neutral. Improve to friendly with the Middle Kingdom. Okay, we can... Let's see. Let's see if we can do any... Well, first of all, we're going to need to get under our worker limit. There we go. So the population issue has been settled. And let's just make sure that we have... we have Seth and we have Seeker. Okay, so all of that is in place. And I don't think we're going to be able to... Yeah, we can trade here. Okay, and then we need one more. So let's pull another worker out. And this is just one of those, we're just trying to switch everybody around to make things the least bad that they can be. Okay, so that's something. But you can see all around the hostility. In so many different directions. We're trading here. But most of the territory... very much set against us. Okay, so back to our situation. 9%. And I think I can afford... We'll do one more here. And then two here. Okay, we're down to about 200 favor. Where are we at on our tomb? Okay, last turn here. Completed. War among gnomes. The wave of chaos brought a number of people to power in the regions who now consider themselves to be kings. They pray not to the king, but to Osiris himself to reach eternal life. These petty kings conduct independent policies, or even declaring war on each other, plus 10% chaos strength. So, of course, what we have here, then, is a bunch of regional conflicts breaking out. And we have authority from Memphis, only in name. And a lovely picture here of the Tomb of Ibi, which, from what I understand, is small enough that it was as small as they used to build, for example, for queens and other key members of the court of the pharaoh. This definitely would not approach even the smaller tombs and pyramids that were built for pharaohs of the previous, more prosperous dynasties. So Lower Egypt is now gone. Nomarchs and the high priests have decided to follow the example of other regions and declared independence. We now only rule Memphis. Well, it can't get much worse, right? We have a couple more workers to disband. Favor of Seeker has ended. I'm not going to go with Osiris. We'll just re-up here. And the Tomb of Ibi. Kings of fractured Egypt continued to build their own pyramids. Like their more fortunate ancestors, however, due to a weakened economy, they could not afford the luxury. The only completed pyramid of this time, of the 7th and 8th dynasties, seemed tiny next to the more grandiose pyramids of his predecessors. The external casing was unrefined. There is no hint of the past majesty of kings. I rather find it impressive that amidst all this chaos, they still managed to complete even a small pyramid, personally. Alright. So these are continuing to decline despite our best efforts. I will placate one more time and reform. We're at 2%. And we are almost there. And another battle. More pillaging. Blessing of Hoppy. Yay. We're at 10%. Just going to hit a couple of those. I'll leave it at 4%. And then we'll hit Hoppy again. And why not? We have the food to do it. Onward we go. Okay, 2 more turns. We didn't have any special events there. We're down to 12%. Let's see. So expensive that I think I'm going to hit... Well, you know what? I think I'm just going to hold here. There's only 2 turns left. We might be able to keep it under 50%. Probably can just by letting it ride from here. Protection of Bastet is over. That I do want to go get for the final time. And technology is coming in, so we could boost some of our resources, perhaps. I think we have enough favor. If we look at our various situations, well, we definitely don't have enough production. We have a lack of material there. Why don't I boost that one? And then we will just do sacrifice food and favor. I think we can afford to do this. That at least gets us above that mark for the moment. We're only at 14%. We should be good here. Gold victory! The first intermediate period destroyed the Old Kingdom, but despite all divine maledictions, the kings of Memphis managed to hold on to their power. Thanks to your wisdom, Memphite kings managed to remain in power in the capital. That will allow us to preserve hope for the restoration of the old order in the future. And everybody is peaceful and happy all of a sudden? I'm not sure about that. Epilogue. Initially, people blamed the kings for the horrors of the first intermediate period, but over time, people grew tired of the chaos and once again started to seek the united, strong rule of the king. A number of local rulers joined the race to unite Egypt. Thebes, Memphis, Heracleopolis became the new centers, and the road to the foundation of the Middle Kingdom has begun. So we managed to at least not collapse our entire civilization. And here is our final score. Gold in 6 trials, silver in the Civil War and Great Age of the Pyramids. I will take that. Now, I am going to keep playing because I want to show what happens here. It kind of bothers me a little bit. So this is sort of a post-game historical note. You're done with the historical part of the game. Would you like to continue in survival mode where you will have to keep developing your nation and fend off hordes of enemies? Yes, let's do so. And then when we come to our next turn, got a wet period, declaration of war. Okay, we're going to be battling against various regions that are enemies. Fine. And then we have this. The Sea Peoples. Far away north beyond the Great Green, there live numerous Sea Peoples. The gods of chaos are filling them with an adventurous spirit, which drives them to neighboring countries to raid and destroy. Regular invasions by the Sea Peoples have begun. This really annoys me. It gets under my skin, because the Sea Peoples are just traditionally used as sort of the boogeyman far too often. And they've said the historical period has ended, but they're still using a historical enemy, a historical group of people, and throwing them in here. They could have had revolts or simply extra attacks from even off map or whatever. They didn't have to specifically give them the Sea People's name. You know, some of the regions that you don't control coming against you. So many different options that they could use. But this is not, the Sea Peoples aren't even around at this time. So about 2100 BC, we're coming towards the end of the first intermediate period, which ended about 2050 or so, 2055. And then you get into the Middle Kingdom. And the Middle Kingdom, depending on how you measure it, lasts for perhaps 300, 320 years, something like that. Then we fall into the second intermediate period, which is occasioned at or near the beginning by invasion by the Hyksos. And they bring their chariots, and Egyptians get chariots from them and eventually kick them out. Then you have the New Kingdom, starting at about 1550 BC. And that goes on for several hundred years. Then you have what's known as the Late Bronze Age collapse, and that is where the Sea Peoples are involved. About 900 to 1,000 years in the future, probably about 950 from now, 1180, 1175 BC, somewhere in that range. And so we're just invoking them at a time that they don't belong because we're just want to have Sea Peoples in our game. I mean, that's really the only reason that I can think of for it. They aren't needed here, and you just throw them in anyway. So just drives me a little batty. But in any case, thank you for watching Egypt Old Kingdom. We will be proceeding forward, and there'll be a historical deep dive into issues surrounding both sides of the Late Bronze Age collapse, as it's called. And then we will get into our next series in the ancient Near East, and that'll be a lot of fun as well.